All right, so this is our very first, as I mentioned, our very first coding webinar that is specifically for both students and for teachers. And so we want to be able to give both our teachers and our students the ability to access today's webinar. So today's webinar is for students and teachers. The CodeMonkey team wants to thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar and bringing your questions with you. This webinar is something new, and we are very excited to have you here with us today. Our goal of today's webinar is that you get the chance to see how learning to program can take you beyond the walls of your classroom. This year has been anything but normal, as we know, for both students and for teachers. And if it's done anything during this time, it's shown us the ability and the importance of going digital. And if you would like to ask any questions during today's live event, please just go ahead and raise your hand. You'll see that along the bottom of the Zoom. And if we don't get to your questions, we will have some time at the end for some Q&A. We're going to be doing a live interview session with our founder. And if you have any questions, you can also enter those within the Q&A box. So please follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at CodeMonkeySTU. And let's get ready to write code, catch bananas, and save the world. So like we mentioned, today is the Hour of Code, a fireside chat with our founder, Jonathan Shore. And like I mentioned, you can follow us on all of our social media channels. But first, we're going to go ahead and take some time to meet our team today. And so in order to meet our team, I'll first by introducing myself so you can know who I am. And my name is Lena Saleh. I am the Professional Development and Sales Manager here at CodeMonkey. You can email me or follow me alongside CodeMonkey's Twitter. I will be leading today's interview. We also have Zach Izikow. He is joining us from Israel, so we'll get a chance to talk a little bit about why he might be joining us. Oh, there he is, alongside the bottom there.
Hi, everyone.
And he is joining us from Israel, and he is our Director of Sales. And then I'll let our next panelist jump in.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Brett Eskelson, VP of Sales here. So I'm excited to be a part of this and excited about bringing computer science education to more students. So thank you.
Great. And last but not least, we're going to go ahead and meet today's founder, or our founder that's joining us today. And we're going to get to hear a little bit more about his story and hear from all of you. All right, Jonathan, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm glad to be here, excited to participate and share my story.
Alrighty, so we are going to go ahead and get started with today's interview session with Jonathan. And so we're just really excited to be sharing this all with you as well, like we mentioned. So today is going to be an interview style of webinar where we have polled you all on your questions and what types of things you wanted to see. So first, we're going to talk about what is CodeMonkey, our founder's story in an interview, and then some live Q&A. So just a little bit about CodeMonkey. If none of you have been joining us during any of our Hour Code events, or if you have been maybe learning about us in school, we are a fully gamified coding platform really designed to put both students and teachers in the driver's seat. It's really fun to play, and we really want our students to learn a deep dive into the coding foundation. So if you're not sure about that, you can always visit us at our webpage at www.codemonkey.com and sign up for a free trial for both your students or if you are our parent joining us as well. And then we're going to do some live Q&A here at the end. So the first thing, we're going to go ahead and get started with Jonathan, and his first question from someone from the audience is Jonathan, if you could tell us, what was your first job right out of college?
Well, actually, it was a job I had actually from since before college and during college as a software developer in a in a medium-sized software firm here in Israel. So I actually started working for them right when graduating from high school. And it was actually my only job as a software developer before I started CodeMonkey. So all the way from the end of high school until I started CodeMonkey around 10 years later.
Okay, great. And Jonathan, do you want to tell us exactly where you're joining us from? Because I bet many of our audience isn't sure where you are joining us from or where CodeMonkey is based.
Right. Yeah. Good question. Yeah. So I'm joining from Tel Aviv, Israel. This is where we started CodeMonkey. Israel is famous for its vibrant startup scene, and CodeMonkey is another Israeli startup company. We do have offices in the US where I spent a year and a half while building the company. But now I'm back in Tel Aviv, Israel.
All right, great. And I see some questions rolling in. So we got some great questions that we'll have. This is our question from the audience. This is from Miss Burrows. She's joining us from Jericho, New York. What was the first thing that you coded?
It was a computer game, like many software developers that started early in the 1990s. Also for myself, the motivation for starting to learn to code early was wanting to create my own computer games and share them with my classmates. So that's what I did. It was like kind of a quest game, it's a genre that was popular in the 90s, but the quest was happening in the houses of my classroom buddies, so we had to go around their rooms and houses in the computer game and find all kind of treasures and hints and solve mysteries and stuff.
Oh, very cool. All right, so let's go ahead with our next question. And so what was the first programming language that you learned?
So that was called Logo, and it actually provided a lot of inspiration also later for CodeMonkey. So Logo is a programming language that was developed in the 70s in MIT. For the purpose of teaching kids to code. So it's a special programming language that was designed to make it easy for children back then in the 70s and 80s to experiment with coding. So computers back then were very basic. There were only black and white screens and no advanced graphics and internet like you have today. So basically what you would do on Logo is write small programs like you see here on the screen that would just draw those simple geometric shapes on screen. So I'm sure that for kids today and for people today, this looks far from exciting, but you have to remember this was the 80s. So anything happening on a computer was exciting for us back then. That was the way to learn to code for kids in those days.
Okay, great. And another one from the audience. This is Mrs. She. She is joining us from Richmond, Canada. And Ms. She, you have something in common. Zach is actually from Canada himself as well. Where did the idea for CodeMonkey come from?
So, like I said, I started early. Both my parents were software engineers, so they put me on like a coding summer camp when I was 8 years old. And so I started early, and then when I graduated high school, I started my own coding courses for children in Israel. And it was like in this sort of like community center in a town in the south of Israel. And a lot of those kids were coming from limited resources background, sort of underprivileged communities, and I created these coding courses for them, which I gave them personally in class. But before each class, I created like those game-like puzzles or challenges that you need to solve using code. And that was still using the same programming language that I used for learning Logo from MIT, but it had richer graphics already. It was the year 2000, 2001. And I was amazed to see how quickly kids can learn to code that way, and how effective and how teaching kids to code could be as an enabler for like future career and things like that. So that was the main inspiration for starting CodeMonkey as a company 10 years later.
I realized I was muted. Sorry about that. So the idea for CodeMonkey came from when you were working with students, younger students, and at-risk students. So that's really great. A good question. I'm just going to skip around for just a second because another person had asked this question. Why did you choose a monkey for CodeMonkey? Did you do any market research, or are you just a super big fan of monkeys?
So that's a great question. So actually, the specific concept of using a monkey catching bananas and calling the game CodeMonkey and the company CodeMonkey, this specific idea wasn't mine. It was my brother's. I started CodeMonkey with my young brother, who was the main game developer and the CTO of the company. And he came up with this idea because it's kind of like an internal joke. So among teams of software developers, the term CodeMonkey is used sort of like as a joke, as a term to describe the most beginner coder in the group, the one that you give the most simple coding tasks to. So he's like the CodeMonkey. He's doing the simple work. It's like a friendly joke among coders. So the term already existed, CodeMonkey, and we just decided to use it as the theme and the title for our game and company.
Great. This one is from the audience. This one is from Miss Rodella. She's joining us from Chatham, New Jersey. So sorry if I butchered your name there. What is CodeMonkey currently working on?
Oh, wow, a lot of stuff. So today, CodeMonkey is being used by around 20 million students all over the world, in Israel, in the USA, in China, in Australia, almost any country in the world. A lot of things we've been working on recently are solving needs that came as a result of frequent COVID-19 closures. So a lot of features that would allow an easier experience for teaching remotely and for self-learning from home. So a lot of the work naturally recently is focused around those special needs presented by the corona pandemic.
Okay, great. All right, our next question is, what was the most challenging part of starting your own company, and what has been the most meaningful?
So the most challenging part, I guess, was to convince, because you need money to start a company like CodeMonkey, developers, cost money, graphic designers, web servers, and all of that, cloud servers, marketing, offices. So you need money, and so you need to sort of persuade. I need to persuade investors that teaching kids to code or creating tools for teaching kids to code could become also a sustainable business. Like everyone agreed that it would be a very good product and children would enjoy it and teacher would enjoy it, but the most challenging part was to convince investor that it could also create a good business. So that was the most challenging part. And the most meaningful part when started the company. So our first big success story was in our home country, in Israel. So CodeMonkey was adopted by the National Ministry of Education here in Israel, and they used it to create like a national coding Olympics between teams of students from schools all over the country. And what was very meaningful and exciting to see there, that many of the schools that did best on CodeMonkey were actually schools from very far away villages in Israel, that again were schools that are serving community, like low resources community. A lot of students that didn't even have computers or internet connection at home. They would go to school in the afternoon with their parents or volunteering teachers to develop their coding skills and compete in this national coding Olympics.
Great. Okay, let's check out our next question. Why is coding important for future employment?
So beyond, you know, the increasing, the always increasing demand for software developer, like you see more and more need in software developers in the industry. Like the software industry is growing every year. Learning to code is important for future employment because nowadays, even if you don't pursue a career in coding, almost anything you do interacts with code. Either if you're working in marketing, for example, which used to be mainly offline, but now most of the marketing budget are spent online on online marketing. And it doesn't mean that you have to write code yourself in order to work in marketing today, but if you don't understand how code works and how the internet works and how websites work, it would be very hard for you to excel in something like that. And the same goes for research, academia, finance, health, medicine. There isn't a field today that is not interacting with software constantly. So even if you don't plan to become a coder, being able to understand how computers work and how computer programs operate would give you a very important advantage, no matter what you choose as your future career.
Great. And this one is also from the audience as well. This is Mrs. Edison. She is joining us she's joining us from New Jersey. What courses would you advise students to take in high school and in college?
Oh, wow. So actually my best advice would be to take courses that really excite you and that are really interesting for you. So as much as I think learning to code is fun and important, if a certain student doesn't feel that way, then I wouldn't recommend taking that as a high school course. I think the most important thing is to learn, you know, to follow sort of your inner motivation and inner natural interest. That would be my advice.
Okay, great. So can you tell us some of the other jobs that are associated with CodeMonkey? And can you tell us also your role within the organization?
Yeah, so my role today, I'm the CEO, I'm managing the organization. So I don't get to do any coding myself anymore, which is a pity because I always enjoyed that very much. But yeah, today I'm dealing strictly with managing the company and managing other employees and teams and setting goals and strategy and things like that. But other roles in the company, so obviously we have the product team, which consists mainly of software developers. They develop and maintain the CodeMonkey platform. They develop the different games and courses. We have the pedagogy team, which is in charge of creating the coding courses on top of the coding platform. So those are like computer science teachers usually. We have the marketing team, the sales team, and the customer success team, which is doing maybe the most important job, which is to make sure that schools and families that chose to purchase CodeMonkey subscription and use CodeMonkey as their computer science education platform are actually successful in implementing our technology and content in their homes or classrooms.
Great. All right, so I am just having an issue here with my screen, so sorry about that, you guys. Okay. All right, so we are going to ask another question here. In 5 years, where do you hope CodeMonkey is?
Good question. Well, basically, we want to continue what we're doing now, but sort of to expand the curriculum. We see a trend globally of computer science gradually becoming, transitioning from being sort of an extracurricular optional course to gradually become part of the core curriculum. So as that happens, I hope to see CodeMonkey mature accordingly from sort of just like specific courses company, a company that provides specific courses in computer science, to a company that provides a full computer science curriculum for K-12, including all the aspects that are required from a full curriculum solution. So that means also teacher training, assessment, and also, of course, a full pathway of courses from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade.
All right, great. I'm just pulling up another question here. If you could tell your younger self one thing, what would it be? And if you could tell your future self one thing, what would it be?
Oh, those are tough ones. My younger self, what would it be? Probably to be patient, more patient, I guess. I remember when we wanted to start CodeMonkey the first time, it was too early. It was the year 2007, and nobody really cared that much about computer science education for young kids, and we just failed miserably. And about like 7 years later, coding for kids became a trend, and then we managed to start the company successfully. But in between, the waiting was kind of frustrating for me because I always knew that's what I wanted to do. So in retrospective, you know, if someone would have told me, don't worry, the time will come, like just be patient, I guess it would have been an easier experience for me. And what can I tell my future self? I guess to always stop once in a while what you're doing and try to remember why did you start doing it in the first place? Like, what was your initial motivation? Because it's easy sort of to lose track once you get busy trying to achieve your different goals, to lose track of your initial motivation. Why did you start this in the first place? So I would sort of remind my future self, why did we start this in the first place?
Okay, those are all really good feedback and tips for our students. Another question, we have one question here. Now we're gonna open it up for Q&A for our students and for our teachers. And so, because we're out of our own questions here and we wanna leave time for your questions as well. One question that I know you already answered privately in our Q&A here is, when was CodeMonkey made?
So the first version was created late 2014. It was really ridiculous. We didn't have an animator in the team yet. So my brother, the game designer, the coder, he drew the characters himself. It was really amateur looking, but it has its charm, you know, like a sort of a homemade version of CodeMonkey.
Very cool. What is your favorite part? And this comes from Paige Bestoff in her classroom. What is your favorite part of CodeMonkey?
Of the game, or?
I'm not exactly sure. I know that.
Okay.
I know that Paige also raised her hand, so maybe we can ask Paige and have her answer that question. Find her. Oh, there's quite a few of her there. So Paige, if you want to raise your hand, I can allow you to speak there. So maybe we take another question while she's doing that. Do you enjoy coding?
Do I enjoy? Yeah, I enjoyed coding very much. I don't get to do this as much anymore. But actually now my favorite part in my job in CodeMonkey is meeting students, like visiting classrooms that are using CodeMonkey. It's harder now with all the restrictions on travel and schools in general, but when we were still able to do that, that was my favorite part. Meeting students and teachers that are using CodeMonkey and hearing their feedback and their experience. And the best ideas always come from teachers and their students.
Great. We have a question from Samantha, and she wanted to know how many people work for CodeMonkey.
That's a good question. So it's a small company, actually. We have like full-time employees. We have around 15 in Israel, creating the product and the platform and doing all the back office stuff, and roughly another 5 in the US. And actually CodeMonkey became very big in China recently, the last 2 or 3 years. So that's pretty amazing. CodeMonkey classes in China are growing extremely fast, and over there, there are around 70, almost 100 full-time employees working in delivering CodeMonkey courses to after-school students in China.
It's a lot of teachers, which is a lot of people working there on that side of side of the world. So it's great to see us that we are working with students all across the world. We have another question here. Which of the CodeMonkey courses are your favorite? My personal favorite is Dota Does Math, but that's just my personal favorite. So what is your favorite?
My favorite will always be Coding Adventure Part 1, because that course that I was still mostly personally involved in creating every small detail of, because we were still just a very small company, just like 3 or 4 people. But it's just because my personal part in creating that course. I think all the courses are great, and they're actually getting better and better as you go along.
Great. Another question is, have you ever considered making swag, like t-shirts and things like that?
Oh, we have tons of swag. It's just hard to get the swag across now with no conferences because of because of COVID. But I'm sure that soon enough we'll be back on the different ISTEs and other K-12 EdTech conferences, and you're all invited to visit our booth and grab some t-shirts and and pins, stickers. We have them all. Backpack.
Okay, we do. We have quite a bit of that for our teachers. So we already asked you this question, is CodeMonkey worldwide? And we will say that CodeMonkey is worldwide. We do have about, how many users did you say, Jonathan, now? 20 million users?
20 million worldwide, yeah.
Okay, great. So we do have quite a few users worldwide. So outside of coding and what you do at CodeMonkey, what are some of your favorite activities to do outside of CodeMonkey?
Sorry, can you repeat it?
What are some of your hobbies that you do outside of just owning and being in the CodeMonkey company?
So I became a father 3 years ago. So I think my favorite thing to do now is spending time with my daughter. She turned 3 recently. She's amazing. But beside of that, I like snowboarding. I play tennis, and I started boxing recently.
Oh, very nice. Do any of the students or teachers have a question that they would like to ask, that we can unmute you and you can join us and ask Jonathan a question? I know that we had a question about, how do you feel about the success of the Hour of Code?
So the success of the Hour of Code, that's an amazing thing. And without the success of the Hour of Code and code.org, the CodeMonkey couldn't have been as successful. It's just important to me that the Hour of Code will be treated as a first step, sort of means to an end, and not the ultimate sort of result of computer science education, or this trend of teaching kids to code. Because the Hour of Code is amazing as an exposure event, exposing teachers and students to coding, but it's important to go beyond that, to go beyond just an hour of code, and really try to implement at least a semester-long course in a classroom.
Great. And another question, and we do love the Hour of Code. That's how I started coding myself. How long did it take you to get good at coding? And how many hours do you think you invested on your own time to learn?
That's a trick question, because if you ask my brother, I never got good at programming. So that's why he's a CTO. But
do you want to tell them what a CTO is? Because I don't know if a lot of the students know.
It's the acronym is Chief Technology Officer, but he's like the chief coder. Yeah, but yeah, to get real good at coding, I remember reading an article once that there used to be, when coding became like a very desirable sort of job skill. So a lot of businesses started advertising courses saying, become a developer in just 2 months, or in just I don't know, 2 weeks, or crazy promises like that. Become an expert coder in just 1 semester. And then I read an article saying the truth is, to become a really good coder, it takes like 10 years. Like, you need to learn, and then you need to get a job, and you need to learn from the more experienced coders around you, and you need to learn from mistakes and to see projects succeed and projects fail. And that job experience is something that you cannot replace, and you cannot fast forward it. So it's like a lifelong craft that you master, and you become better and better in.
Do you think that is that why you're so passionate about having students learn how to code at a much younger age? Or do you find that it doesn't matter at what age they begin coding?
It does matter. I remember in college, I had a much easier time. I started computer science, I majored in computer science also in college, and I saw it was much easier for me and for other students that had the early start than it was for other brilliant students that were coding in college for the first time. So it's like learning a language. The earlier you start, the easier it is for you.
Great. Okay, so it seems that nobody's raising their hand to jump on here to ask us questions. So we'll round out here with just one more question. And that would be, I don't know. Sorry, I just forgot what I was going to say. Why did you guys choose to use CoffeeScript as the main language for Coding Adventure?
I still think it's the best gateway language because it's a very user-friendly, like coder-friendly language. The syntax is very clean, very compact, no semicolons and other crazy characters that you need to insert every line. So it's very coder-friendly, very easy to learn on one hand, and on the other hand, it's super useful because it's actually a version of JavaScript, which is the most useful language in the world today, because it's sort of like the programming language of the internet, of the web browsers on every phone, every tablet, every laptop or computer. So it's like the best of both worlds. It's both very easy to use and very powerful. So that's why we chose it.
Great. All right. Well, we just want to thank everybody so much for joining us and dealing with our technical difficulties. We do have another webinar this Wednesday with our other co-founder, and that is Ido Shore, and that's Jonathan's brother. So he'll tell his story and answer a few questions from his own perspective. And we just want to thank Jonathan so much for taking time out of his day. And it's very late in Israel, so we're happy that he was able to join us. And so we just want to thank all of the teachers and all of the students for joining us during this week's event. And we hope that you spend some time this week exploring some coding courses and hopefully exploring the CodeMonkey courses and our newest course, our Space Monkey Space Adventure course as well. And again, we just want to thank you from everybody on the CodeMonkey team for joining us and all that you do to support us. And Jonathan, do you have anything to add?
I just want to thank everyone as well. Thank you, Lena, for hosting this. Thank you, Brett and Zach, and thank you all the teachers and students that participated and asked questions. Like I said, this is the best part of my job, interacting with our users.
We agree. This is one of our favorite parts as well. And if we missed any of your questions or you didn't feel something got answered, please tweet out to us, or you can email us at info@codemonkey.com. And as always, remember to write code, catch bananas, and save the world. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.